Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Grace Hatfield from EHS Daily Advisor, and thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Faces of EHS. This is a segment where we feature environmental health and safety professionals and highlight their journeys and hear their thoughts about EHS trends and issues. Today, we are joined by Megan Walters, who is the Vice President of Compliance and Customer Success at Encamp. So, hi, Megan, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So, can you tell us a little bit about your position at Encamp and what you guys do as a company?
Yeah, so I'm the VP of Compliance and Customer Success here at Encamp. I've been here a little bit more than 3.5 years, and I head up our customer success department as well as our compliance team. So we're responsible for making sure our customers are successful using Encamp, supporting them through that process, as well as the compliance team, who basically does a lot of the research behind the scenes to make sure that we've got accurate data sets backing up our product. And so Encamp is, we like to call it the end-to-end solution for environmental compliance reporting. So we started our flagship product was tier two reporting. So we handle about almost 10,000 reports for tier two reporting, and we're just dipping our toes into RCRA as well. So looking forward to building out more product for basically all environmental media that environmental health and safety professionals have to work with.
Well, great. So let's jump right in. How did you get your start in EHS?
Yeah, so I first learned about EHS when I was in school in college at Purdue. I was interning for a pharmaceutical company,
Mm.
and I wanted to move into environmental. And so I met with the head of EHS at this company, and he was telling me all about it. And I had no idea that this was even a career path. So I started out in pre med and then eventually moved my way to environmental science and really loved my policy courses. And so from there, my first job out of school was in the hazardous waste industry, and I kind of instantly loved it. I loved reading the regulations, interpreting them, and then helping my customers as well as the TSDF that I worked with. And it was great just to get a perspective from kind of the generator side of that. But then I quickly realized, there's more than just hazardous waste out there that environmental professionals have to deal with. And I wanted to learn more about that. And so from there, I moved into a chemical manufacturing company as their environmental manager and got to learn all about air, process safety management, safety, water, you name it. I've probably done it. So that's kind of how I got my start in the field.
Well, cool. So who's been your biggest influence in the industry?
Yeah, this is a hard question. I would probably say my current boss. Now, I hope he doesn't listen to this and get a big head, but he gave me a shot from basically I was in consulting, and that's where I met him. So I was
Mhm.
able to move from consulting into technology, which I never really thought it was a career path for me. So I quickly was able to utilize my environmental knowledge and skills to build product at Encamp. And once I was able to use that part of my brain, it was almost addictive. I was like, okay, we need to build more. Like the EHS industry just hasn't really been touched by a whole lot of technology. And so it was really, really refreshing and rewarding to get into that. So I would say Luke for giving me a chance of moving into this industry. He's really pushed me outside of my comfort zone, and I've learned quite a bit in the past 3.5 years. So it's allowed me to stay engaged and really feed my need to learn constantly.
Cool. So, what is your best mistake and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, there's a lot of mistakes I've made, and I've learned quite a bit from them. But if I were to pick one, I'm going to say this is probably more of a general one, but I'd say relying on others for your happiness and success. And I mean that by, I don't expect a company or a manager to really prioritize my individual success. A company is there to make money, that's their business. And
Mhm.
so early in my career, I put a lot of trust in companies to prioritize my individual growth, and not that they didn't care, but their main goal is to make money. So I decided sometime along the way to really be a driver in my success and not so much a passenger along for the ride. So I realized if I wanted to be successful, however you define success, you have to be willing to take risks, go outside your comfort zone, network with people, and really prioritize yourself.
Absolutely, I agree. So what's your favorite and least favorite part of working in EHS, and would you change anything?
Yes. So my favorite, I've got two. That might be cheating, but
No,
I
you're
couldn't
good. You're
really
good.
decide between the two.
Yeah.
So the first one that came to mind was really like seeing your immediate impact in the world, in EHS, in the environment. So
Mhm.
some of the projects that I took on as a consultant really made a big difference for many major like Fortune 500 companies. And knowing that your work is really contributing to a bigger initiative was really, really rewarding for me, especially starting out my career. That really got my brain fueled. So my
Mhm.
other favorite thing about the industry is how willing everyone is able to help. No one's really like shielding anything and kind of owning their fiefdom or anything like that. They're all willing to help and really share that knowledge across companies and industries on best practices and tools that they use. So that's my other favorite. And you asked what my least favorite was, and
Yes.
I would have to say probably the hesitancy to adopt technology.
Mhm.
Some of us are really stuck in our ways, which is fine if it's going well and you're doing everything you need to do. That's totally fine. But I have found that if you really do try to adopt technology, it'll help so much on copy paste errors, human error. We kind of get stuck with those old tools or Microsoft Suite to really review, gather, and manipulate data. And I think
Mhm.
we could really elevate ourselves if we really tried to look out and see what other types of technology is out there. So that actually kind of goes into what would I change, and I would definitely try to integrate technology into pretty much every aspect that I could.
Mhm.
Obviously, we still need humans to do some of the work, and we absolutely should have that part and that component of it. But there's a lot of redundant work that EHS managers are spending time on, and it's honestly a waste of their knowledge, their expertise. And I think
Mhm.
they could really use that time that they're spending contributing to a bigger, impactful project.
Yeah, so where do you think that hesitancy comes from specifically in the EHS community with technology?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it comes from just the ability to trust that your data is going to be moved from like your spreadsheet to maybe the state agency or federal agencies,
Mhm.
portal, and making sure that actually is carried through all the way that you intended it to. Because
Mhm.
there are there's major consequences if you don't report the correct way. And so I think they know, if the spreadsheet I'm working off has worked for me for 20 years,
Mhm.
why change it if it's not broken? So I think that's where it comes from. But to free up that time that you're spending just moving pivot tables around, I think it would really be beneficial.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So how can company leaders make safety a value within their organization?
Yeah. I've worked for a lot of bigger companies, and they all do a really good job of making safety a really important value to their organization.
Mhm.
And something that I've really observed that companies have done well is when the leaders show how safety affects them in their day to day life, and I'll
Mhm.
include like outside of work, showing how it impacts them at home. That really highlights that it's a value that is really important to them. I really like seeing like my boss or previous bosses, at home wearing safety glasses if they're chopping wood, or
Mhm.
planting, and they're wearing steel-toed boots whenever it's needed. So just making sure you're really thinking about safety in your day-to-day life, and then highlighting that to your employees so that they know it's not safety when I just clock into the job, but I'm carrying that throughout my entire day.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've heard that actually from quite a few of the EHS professionals that I've interviewed that if you walk the walk, it's a lot more impactful on
Definitely.
your workforce. So back to kind of technology and data, what are your thoughts on safety culture in terms of compliance culture?
Yeah. So safety culture is still. it's going to be needed, and it should be inherent in kind of any company that you work with.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not too involved in safety in my current role, other than like the inherent role of it.
Hmm.
But it's definitely not going away, and it still needs to be incorporated kind of into any sort of job that you're doing, whether it's an office job, whether you're, boots on the ground, it needs to be incorporated. But compliance is also a big aspect of that. And I think that's why we've kind of seen in the past, I'll say like 10 to 15 years, that safety has really taken a bigger precedent in the technology industry, where there's so many tools. People are thinking about wearables, like safety technology wearables, like when you're on the ground. And the environmental compliance piece has really taken a backseat to that when adopting technology. So that's kind of how I see the two of them.
Hmm. So, where do you see the industry heading in the future? Are you seeing any current trends now, whether it be technological or otherwise?
Yeah. Environmental, I think, is going to be a bigger piece. I mean, I've already started to see that.
Hmm.
You're seeing more talk about ESG and regulatory changes. So I think that's really going to take a bigger front seat in the next couple of years. And then the other thing I've observed, and I've seen this, my little brother is 10 years younger than me, so I kind of get kind of the feel of the younger generation from him. But that
Hmm.
generation really, really cares about who they're working for. And a lot of them focus on making sure sustainability is a big piece and cornerstone of the
Hmm.
company that they're going to work for. So they don't want to work for someone that, is polluting without any sort of devices to control that. They're really looking at like what's their impact on the environment before they sign up on the dotted line to work for a company.
Absolutely, yeah. So how do you think COVID complicated or exacerbated problems with compliance specifically?
Yeah, it's made it really interesting, and something that I've been trying to like dig into is really like the remote work aspect of it.
Hmm.
So we went remote in March of 2020, and we haven't looked back. We're still distributed throughout the United States. And so I've been trying to keep up to date on like how OSHA handles that, because you're technically on the job, but you also don't have anyone really managing you or looking over what you're doing. Like no one's going to be checking to make sure I'm like set up in my chair ergonomically correct. And
Hmm.
so that's what I've been really paying attention to, is how does OSHA combat that sort of side of the workforce. And I know it's made it really difficult kind of in the actual industry, like if you're boots on the ground, because I think I've seen OSHA send something out where if you actually contract COVID on the job, that's technically a recordable. And so trying to track all of that has made it super complicated. But I've been just trying to keep track of the trends, but it's made it definitely more cumbersome, I think, for the EHS managers out there.
Absolutely, yeah. So to kind of pivot back to you a little bit personally, what are you most proud of?
Yeah, um, that's a great question. And I have a lot of things that I am proud of, and I think the biggest thing that stands out to me most is probably what I've done here at Encamp. It's something I think very different from what a lot of the EHS professionals do out there, and so that's really helped me kind of elevate myself here, but also in the industry. I've helped save customers thousands of hours and dollars just from eliminating that copy and pasting into state agency websites. So being able to build that software to help people that I used to do that job is really, really rewarding. And I think that's what I'm probably most proud of. And that time that they're freeing up, I really like hearing from our customers and knowing what they're focusing their time on now. Is it some
Hmm.
really cool, impactful project that you're doing, maybe like sustainability wise, or maybe you're taking the time to update SOPs, which is still important, but
Hmm.
that's time you didn't have, and I'm really glad to see that my customers are able to utilize that time better.
Absolutely. So my last question is, do you have any advice for people entering the profession?
Yes. Some of these things I didn't learn until later on in my career.
Hmm.
So I'll give you a bit of advice for that. If you are starting out your career in the environmental space, I would say one of the biggest things I've learned is to network. and try not to burn bridges when you do leave a company. I've really kept in contact with a lot of the people I used to work with, and I still go back to them time to time and ask them questions, but they're always looking for new challenges, and I'm always looking for new challenges. So just keeping that network open is really, really good. It helps you really find what other opportunities are out there. I'd also say invest in your continuing education. I continue to take courses on a variety of environmental topics, but also, just looking out there on productivity, or I lead a team, so I'm always looking to look for that content to help me build my team up and also make sure that I'm supporting them in the right way.
Mhm.
And then I'd also say find things that interest you, even if it's outside of your comfort zone. So something I did early on in my career is I did my, 9 to 5, clocked in, clocked out, but I also try to pick up things where I was really interested in. So I worked for Heritage right out of school, and they had a sustainability team, and that was something that was newer, and I wanted to learn more about it. So I joined that team and really saw that I could be impactful there, and I carried those skills that I learned in that team onto my other jobs that I did. And I think that speaks to like how I was able to grow. I was challenged, and that really helped.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Megan. I'm really grateful to have had this opportunity to get to know you and hear your insights, and I'm sure our audience is going to love to hear everything you have to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Grace.
Thank you.